Welcome to Les Sables d'Olonne, then the headquarters of the Vendée Globe. It's day 73 on the racecourse, just a couple of days before the record of Armand Leclerc will expire. But of course, we already have 3 boats inside that record. But very, very tough conditions on the racecourse at the moment. Big seas, that really is the biggest problem. And then 2 more low pressure systems coming in, one after the other. And that is January on the Bay of Biscay and indeed on the Vendée Globe. But on the racecourse, well, Jeremy Bayou is now 100 miles clear of his nearest pursuer. He just needs to get the boat home to take 4th place on Chiral. Nico Lunven is up to 5th ahead of Paul Meilhat, and sadly Sam Goodchild, who damaged his mainsail yesterday, has dropped to 7th. Well, we had hoped to get the very remarkable Justine Mettraux on the live today. She's up to 8th, potentially going to move up to 7th, depending. But just the same as they had problems in the French live today trying to get hold of Nico Lunven, we know that Justine is in the heart of this storm. So we have a video from her this morning, and this says Justine.
Hi everybody, this is Justine on board Smart Snap. So at the moment we are sailing in around 30-35 knots of wind, a bit higher than downwind, and in like at least 6 meters of waves. So the system is really huge, it's quite impressive and a bit from the side, so even if we are downwind it's not really smooth. Not really nice and quite tiring, as you can see. So at the moment on my side I just really try to preserve the boat. We saw with Sam who just lost his main that yeah, it's just about preserving the assets and going through this low, and then we'll see what we can do once we're out of it and what's next, what are the next traps, because I think there are still a few to come, but yeah, one issue after the other. So that's my mindset for the moment. Sorry, that was my alarm. And yeah, so even if we are quite close and there is still some game for the moment, yeah, I just try to put the rigs beside and try to keep the boat in a very good shape. You know, all the boats are really tired now, even the structure and so on. So yeah, just trying to keep it easy.
So there we go, Justine Mettraux saying she's putting the race aside momentarily, focusing on just getting the boat across the finish line, as indeed most of the skippers are in that area. Anyway, our guest today is the president of North Sails, a double round-the-world racer on the ocean race, and also America's Cup sailor, a broadcaster, Ken Reid. How are you?
Hey, great, Andy. Thanks for inviting me today.
I'd imagine that with everything that's going on in your country, the Vendée Globe, racing in the Vendée Globe looks quite appealing.
It is a welcome relief, let's put it that way, yes.
Indeed, it's great. It's a great race to get completely immersed into, but you're loving this race.
Listen, I always said that this would have been a dream for me to do. I don't think I was good enough at being kind of an all-arounder like most of these people are, from the engineering and structural and kind of fixing side of things. I frankly didn't really like myself enough to spend 70 days by myself, I don't think. So I'm in awe of what these people do, to be quite honest.
What about Justine Mettraux then? She's on North Sails and going well. She's part of the 2-boat program with Jeremy Bayou.
So she's a machine, and that's to quote my friend Charlie Enright, who did a ton of sailing with her. It's very clear that she has all the makings of a superstar, and she's kind of just starting. So she has tons of miles under her belt at her age. To do what she's doing, she's going to be top 10. Like she said, by the way, that's the best thing I heard come from her was preserve the assets at this stage. It's nasty out there right now. It's going to be nasty to the finish. They got a lot of downwind, a lot of upwind sailing to go after they get through this side of the storm. So listen, I'm super proud of her. It's been very impressive to watch.
And I think one of the key things with Justine is she's coming to the race at the right time. She's got so much experience, crude sailing. She's come through the Figaro, and now is the time for Justine to do her first Vendée Globe.
Well, there's a real path, isn't there now? And and the path is real, and you have to be on the path. I don't see somebody coming into this side of the sport without going through this step-by-step process that most of these sailors have taken, because it is experience. It's knowing when to pull back, when to put your foot on the accelerator, how to preserve the assets. Again, it's a big part of this, and these boats are just violent machines. So somehow you have to mentally stay tuned into without kind of losing your mind, because I can't fathom the violence for that amount of time.
Well, meantime, all the eyes are on the tracker watching the progress for Sam Goodchild, who this time yesterday, the news came in that he's torn his mainsail in half, and everybody's been watching to see how he's been making some repairs. This is Sam's update most recently.
Hello everyone, here we are with the sail. So this is it, ripped in half. So there's the bottom bit and the top bit, and all the way to the back. And so I'm just gluing the two pieces together, which isn't structural, but it'll just hold the two bits together to have one piece to work on. And so I've glued the back half together. It's a very messy affair. I've even got glue on my nose. And now I'm going to try and do the front half, and then after that we can work on something structural to put over the top. I've had a bit of a busy night. I did manage to get some sleep, but I've been working on the sail as well. So we've got the sail here. So we got these patches. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 patches here. I've got 3 on the other side. I need to do 2 more. And yeah, so been gluing them on overnight. The glue's still got to dry, but hopefully that will hold the sail together. There's a little bit more to do at the front and at the back of the sail to take the high load areas. And then I got to try and start fixing the battens as well, but we're making progress. And it's still pretty windy and wavy down here, so we're good. And since I've been trying to look for some good news, I found some. I've gone past the 1,000-mile barrier, so we're less than 1,000 miles till I finish. When I'm going to finish, I've absolutely no idea. Depends how all this goes. But we're getting closer. Have a good day.
So pretty tough for Sam Goodchild just now. Sam, Ken, give us a little bit of hope. I mean, you know obviously about the materials that are available. This is something that he and his team will have talked about and prepared for. He has all the materials with him.
It's amazing with the modern materials and the 3DI material that he's using to patch this thing back together again. It's called 5-ply. It's a customized material that's made actually at the 3DI factory. Listen, what we've learned is battens and sails versus flying jibes and 40 knots against running backstays, the running backstays still win, right? So a lot of times these breakages are happening because of broken battens. And these are soft goods. At the end of the day, they could be the strongest soft goods ever made. They're still going to break if something jabs them in the middle. And Sam, unfortunately, I guess from what I heard him say the other day, he had a hard time with his autopilot. The thing took off down a wave, crashed jibe in 40 knots. It's a shame. But between 5200, which is actually kind of boat builders glue, 5200 and this 5-ply material, he's going to have to wait, but it should be able to stick back together again. I know our people at North Sails France have been assisting. They're allowed to assist with regards to mapping out a plan. And then he's just got to pull it off and wait for the glue to dry. That's the most frustrating part of these things. You got to wait for the glue to dry because you're ready to go. You've been working your you-know-what off for a day and a half, 2 days to put it back together again, and all of a sudden you want to go. But you have to wait almost 20 to 24 hours for the 5200 to dry before you can actually put it back up in the air again.
In the meantime, it's great to see his tenacity. He's so objective about the whole thing, he can still raise a smile.
In many ways, he's really lucky it's windy downwind right now, right? So it looks like he's almost wing and wing. He's got 2 jibs kind of wing and wing out there. And getting to the east, getting to the southeast, try to get stay in the rotation, in the correct side of the rotation of this low pressure system that he's in. So the wind is actually helping him a bit, but he would also be he's doing a wonderful job of not being crazy frustrated and showing it on the camera. Good for him. We're all rooting for him right now. He's making a lot of fans through this process. There's no question.
Good stuff. Indeed, our fingers are crossed for him. So, Ken, talk to us a little bit about the general trends in sail design and construction in the IMOCA class, particularly at the front of the fleet. What are we seeing that's made the difference this time?
Well, we're really fortunate. This is the fourth Vendée in a row that North Sails have been really successful, thanks to Charlie winning this race. And there's no question that as the foils have become more and more efficient, they've allowed the sailors to push the boats that much harder. And because they can push them that much harder, and the more righting moment that's into the whole package, the sails have become stronger and stronger and stronger. And you could just see in the Southern Ocean speeds last time around, the average speeds on a day-to-day basis when they were down in the deep south were in the 17, maybe 18 range. And this time they're in the 21, 22 range. And they're just able to push the boats harder. So fortunately, our designers anticipated this. The DPI, which is the actual strength of the sail, is substantially stronger than even the last race in anticipation of pushing the boats harder. But also a big part of it is the off access, because you can always prepare a boat to be loaded up in the proper, correct angles. But what happens when the bow hits a wave? What happens when you fall off a wave in a strange way? It's the off-axis fibers that have really made a big difference. Have the sails become heavier? Absolutely. But they've needed to, because these folks are really pushing these boats hard, like harder than any single-handed sailing has ever seen before. It's incredibly impressive.
But what are the sailors themselves wanting, the top skippers themselves wanting? They're wanting sails which are more adaptable, which they can fly for longer over a broader wind range, which are lighter and stronger.
You just wrote the advertisement for me. Thank you.
I'll send the invoice.
It was really interesting. In the last edition, weight was everything. There was a big press towards weight. And there's no question that there were some issues because the weight probably got pushed too hard. This time around, it's been about durability. And it's been about making these sails go through a wider range. They're down to only 8 sails on the boat. And by the way, in the next edition, I believe they're only down to 7 sails on the boat. So yes, these sails have to cover a wider range, but they can't break. Now, if it's a crash jibe, like what Sam has encountered, a violent crash jibe and crazy amounts of wind, sometimes there's nothing that's going to stop a sail from breaking, especially if the batten breaks. But in its normal usage, these sails shouldn't break, and that's what we're pushing towards all the time.
But one thing that struck me was we were talking with Charlie Dallin after his finish. He was saying that he was able to sail the boat longer, more overpowered on this race than ever before. How much of that is down to the sails, and what's the key there in terms of the design?
Yeah, well, again, I think it's the structure. It's not having, as a racing sailor, you're out in the middle of the ocean and you're in big waves and you're cranking down a wave and you're just saying, come on, stay together at the bottom of this wave. And that's back in the old days. Now, with essentially, they're different size Genoas on these boats. There's no real spinnakers anymore, no asymmetrics. The boats are faster and faster. Genakers, like this is now a Genaker, but in fact, it's a big Genoa. So you don't have that cringe-worthy moment. Oh my goodness, is this sail going to stay together? You can send it down the mine and know that it's going to be in one piece at the other end. All the other bits and pieces on the boat have to work, of course, like things like autopilots. But with the AI version autopilots that they're all using now, I think that has become better and better. It's really the whole package from top of the mast to the bottom of the keel on these boats is phenomenal. It's really like nothing anybody's ever seen before. I mean, look at this. First of all, these folks are crazy. Can I just say it out loud? At least I had 9 other people with me when I was going around the world. These guys and girls are flat out nuts.
Indeed. Come back to you in a few seconds, Ken, but Paul Meilhat is at the coalface just now in the front line, and he gave us some information this morning when we caught up on our morning calls.
Now it's quite better than yesterday and tonight. The worst was yesterday night and during the tonight, because we were at the top of the high level of sea state, 8 meters in the prediction. So it means the big waves are higher than 10, and we had a lot of thunderstorm tonight, so it was not easy. But I reduced my sail set at the max. I was free reef and storm jib. But now in Vendée, the wind is dropping a little bit. I have around 30 knots, and we are edging the center of the low pressure. And we don't know really what we will do with that. It's quite tricky weather situation. So it probably do upwind and strong wind to the, maybe not to the Cap Finisterre, but half the way. And after we have a ridge, so it's better. And probably finish with southwest wind in the Gulf of Biscay with to finish the race.
So pretty complicated, pretty difficult.
Yes, because the low pressure we have is finishing in cutter, so it's dying along the Portugal coast. So it means that after that we have north wind, but with the ridge pushing. But after the prediction are not really good, so I don't really know what will happen in the Gulf of Biscay. But in probably a big front. But I'm focused on the like 24, 36 next hour, and we will see after.
So looking first of all at the leaders coming into Les Sables d'Olonne round Cape Finisterre. Cape Finisterre being the most difficult bit. At the moment they're in quite strong winds, big seas at the centre, towards the centre of the low pressure system, coming generally fairly downwind towards or reaching towards Cape Finisterre here. And then we have this zone of lighter winds out to the west, and that comes in. The key problem at Cape Finisterre will be big seas, very unruly and mixed up seas. So then coming round now with their initially upwind and then into the lighter airs, and then coming downwind into Les Sables d'Olonne. But the next big issue is this big low pressure system coming in, the second low pressure system, which is going to be worst probably for Sam and Boris towards next weekend. But that's going to be something to watch. Otherwise, then looking then at the group further down the track, Roman Athanasiou starting to come out of the doldrums. Otherwise, these boats are coming across the equator. The doldrums are quite far south and quite active. So it's a case of just trying to make their way best as possible across. Jean Le Cam and Alan Roura further out to the east in better breezes, going quite quick. Conrad Coleman here just behind, also making good progress. Guirec here very much in the top of the South Atlantic, the St. Helena High, and then this little group here upwind in the lighter breezes, but still making reasonable progress. And finally, looking at the boats in the end of the Pacific, and also Jing Kun Chu and Ollie here starting to really struggle at the moment in the lighter breezes here in this big ridge, but they have the some stronger breezes just ahead of them, but still light for the boats coming into Cape Horn. That's what we know for Fabrice Amedeo, for Denny van Veenberg, all coming in lighter breezes, so they should get it right into Cape Horn to see it over today and tomorrow. So that's the weather. There we go. So Ken, more and more programmes looking forward to the ocean race with this crossover between the Vendée Globe and the ocean race and the IMOCA Globe Series. It's good for the IMOCA class. It's good for everyone. It's good for probably good for North Sails.
Well, I think it's good for sailing because this
absolutely.
IMOCA class has just taken off. It is on a grand global scale now. It is very impressive to watch the organization, the boats themselves, and the athletes. It's all about the people at the end of the day. They know how to push these boats. They know how hard to push these boats, and it becomes a real spectacle. So no matter what the race, thank goodness for the IMOCA class amongst many other classes like it, because it's really showing off our sport in a phenomenal way, and that's good for everybody.
How many boats would you imagine will be on the start line for the ocean race? What's your intelligence?
Well, show me the money, right? I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's about the money. It's not a cheap race because there's so many stopovers. So I think a lot of these teams would like to do it. I know a lot of teams would like to do it. Talking to our French group, there's a lot of people that have shown interest. It's just whose sponsors are ready to do that. And it has to be a global sponsor. You know, it's really interesting that I think the ocean race is a different sponsorship setup than the Vendée, for example, because it's less French, it's more global. And it's why Puma wanted to do it before. The first time Puma sponsored my programs, it was all because of the stopover in China, and they were expanding so fast in China, they wanted to go to China and create a big deal. So if it wasn't for that stopover, they probably wouldn't have done it. So it is a whole different sponsorship strategy than something like a single-handed around the world race.
But in general, you see the whole situation expanding and improving for the sport and the whole ecosystem.
Absolutely. And it's not just what it's doing to the sport and how it's being shown globally, but it's also what it's doing to the products that these people are pushing. The learning curve of dealing with a race like this on all types of different programs, whether it's the folks just going around Cape Horn in your weather forecast or the folks that finished a week ago. Everybody has a different challenge that they need to get through, and everybody has a different strategy on how they're going to do this race, and therefore all the products from, there's been problems with furling units and cables and halyard locks. All this stuff will continue to improve, and it shows how hard these boats are getting pushed by these sailors, because unfortunately, in many cases, they're finding out where the limits of some of these hardware pieces are, and therefore you're seeing some failures because of it. It'll all improve, and it's going to be good for an average sailor, because they're the ones who are going to benefit at the end of the day.
Well, you're talking about some of the sailors who are further back in the fleet. Fabrice Amedeo was a Figaro journalist previously. He did the 2016 race. He finished 11th in 103 days. He's coming into Cape Horn just now. He's 200 miles off. Should probably end up doing the whole race in roughly the same duration, but he's happy to be out there and happy to be approaching Cape Horn.
I'm approximately 200 miles from the Cape Horn, so I'm very happy.
And the Pacific has been hard for you?
Yeah, the Pacific has been hard, with a warning with ice 1,000 miles ago, and then wind coming from west. And when the wind comes from west, it's impossible to go east. So I had to jibe a lot. I have never been on the rum line. I was sometimes my route was southeast or northeast, but never east. So it was for me very difficult to come here. So I'm very happy. Now I have a very light wind, but I am on the way to the Cape Horn. So it's an achievement for me. I'm very happy.
This is a very different Vendée Globe to your first one. How do you feel about that?
No, it's not so different from the first one. For the first Vendée Globe, it was an adventure. I was sailing as an adventurer, and for this Vendée Globe, I came with ambition to sail as a competitor, but it was impossible because I had some technical problem, and I was not. The skipper, the boat had some problem, and the skipper was not ready, maybe a little bit. 2 years after the wreck, during the Route du Rhum, I understood that it was difficult for me to attack in the south. So maybe I would say that it's the same Vendée Globe than eight years ago. It was not the goal at the start of the Vendée Globe, but I have to accept. That's it.
So the ranking this midday, the significant change is Nico Lundvent overtaking Paul Meilhat for the moment. But otherwise, Jeremy Bayou leading with 100 miles of a lead now, so he can afford to just consolidate a little bit and take it a little bit easier in these strong conditions. As I say, Nico Lundven up to 5th. He is only 3 miles ahead of Paul Meilhat, about 5 or 10 miles of lateral separation just now between them. Sam Goodchild now dropped to 7th. And he is very much vulnerable to Justine Mettraux in the long terms. We know he's making his repairs as best he possibly can. Otherwise, looking down the table, Sam Davis in 12th now. Boris Herman dropping to 13th, compromised situation for him. Ijabel Josk in 17th, Giancarlo Pedotti in 19th, Alan Rura in 20th. He is only about 100 odd miles, less than 100 miles behind Giancarlo Pedotti, so a chance for a little bit of a tussle between the Italian and Swiss skippers coming up the South Atlantic and across the equator. Conrad Coleman going well in 22nd. Otherwise, Kojiro Shiraishi also going faster now, starting to enjoy his race a bit more. Jin Kun Chu in the battle with Antoine Cornic and Ollie Heer, ahead of Ollie now, and Denny van Veenberg. He's a long way behind, but he's still enjoying his race, and he'll be into Cape Horn probably in a day and a half's time. That's the ranking. Just feel a little bit like Denis van Veenberg has been approaching Cape Horn for a long time, but he will, I'm assured, will be round tomorrow at some point. But Ken, we have this phenomenon in this race, Violette d'Orange, a 23-year-old. She sailed across the channel in an Optimus at 15. She has really ignited interest all over France. I'm not giving anything away. She's 2 weeks out from the finish, and already they're having big meetings talking about Violette's finish. It's a phenomenal experience for a 23-year-old to be doing this race. And her social media, she has 600,000 followers or something.
Social media has changed the game, hasn't it? I think, fortunately, what I was doing at social media was just kind of coming online. Listen, the adventure, there's the racing and there's the adventure and the human adventure. It's always been a race like that. It's always been full of craziness. I think as a fan at this stage, you're watching, the race is, in many ways, the race is over for the podium, but it's now about the adventure and those 3 boats going around the horn. This young lady, as an example, I mean, just phenomenal. You can't imagine how hard this is. And the brave face that when they get in front of the camera, the brave face they all put on, and you just know there's moments of sheer struggle and on the verge of breaking. So to be tough enough, first of all, and then to have the skill set to just persevere, I don't know. It's phenomenal, and God bless her, and just hope that everybody gets home safe now at this stage. That's really that's the most important part.
I think that one of the things about Violette, she's 23. If you consider that Charlie Dallin's winning at 40-41, Johan Richomme 40, there's time enough to see her winning in a few editions' time.
Sailing an Opti across the channel, okay, that was the first moment in time. Okay, this girl's something a little different. So
yes, indeed. Again, the other person who's a little bit different is our Chinese Paralympian, Jin Kun Chu. He's just battered his way through the storms in the Southern Ocean, and now he's taking a little bit of time to enjoy the sunshine, as well you might. So someone very much at one with his environment at the moment. Ken Reid, thank you so much for joining us. Great insights as ever, and hopefully at some stage we'll see you over the course of the season. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Andy. Take care.
That's all we have time for today. Tomorrow my guests will be Bruno Dubois, who's the co-director of the French America's Cup programme, the Orient Express racing team, and his son-in-law, 2 times Ocean Race winner, Jack Boutel. So that will be tomorrow. But in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with We're going to leave you with none other than Ollie Heer, who's unfortunately back on the tools on board Toot Gut, but he's doing a good job and keeping the boat in great shape. We'll see you tomorrow.
One job is my starboard runner winch. I don't hear all the clicks anymore when I spin it, so I think she's very close to back winding. So I'll open this thing and see how it looks inside. This does not sound right to me. Let's have a look. Yeah, and that's the problem. These, what they're called pawls, they should be nice and springy, like this one is. So they engage and lock the winch, but the springs are broken on 3 of the 4 pawls. So time to replace these springs, clean it all up, and put it back together. Having replaced the springs, sounds much better again. So let's put this thing back together. And we've got a working winch again. Happy days.